Hey everyone, and hope everyone's doing good as usual. Thank you for watching, and of course, thank you for tuning in. And as always, let me know if you have any ideas, thoughts, or comments. And subscribe if you haven't already, and give the video a thumbs up if you like it. So, I wanted to do a video on like self-awareness, I guess, or to speak to the idea of emotional and self-awareness for well-being. And that sort of thing. So I've been watching a lot of videos too on this kind of thing, and it ties together a lot with a lot of those common sense um, ideas we hear through our life. Like diet, health, exercise. That of course ties into an overall balanced mental slash spiritual, if you will, and physical well-being. So holistically, just a better you. And of course, what I found fascinating is I think, at least for myself, we all have an idea kind of how that works, but sometimes to explore it in more nuanced terms or more depth, it's kind of eye-opening sometimes. Sometimes you know something, but you don't realize it. So there's like a key difference between knowing or even understanding or then realizing, for example. And I think there's an emotional component to that too as well. But so to start with, like our bodies, I mean, scientifically, it's been proven over, however long our bodies have been evolving on Earth. There's certain like functions and mechanisms at play all the time that are ancient too, that are really hardwired to how we both perceive and experience the world. So, like for example, our mind and our bodies. So we have basically, you can kind of categorize emotions, I guess, into good, bad, and neutral. Neutral being nothing, like calm, like peace and calm, that sort of thing. So as far as like good or positive chemicals, we have actually a built-in reward system. I think it's called the limbic reward system, and it actually it's meant to, in evolutionary terms, support the continuance of positive activity, in other words. So like when we eat, when you eat something that you really enjoy and you feel good, those are chemicals, endorphins that are being released. For example, joggers high, you've heard like when people exercise, they can get like a certain high or a good feeling. It's the same thing, more pronounced or more intense, like when you're doing intense exercise. But it's the same built-in reward system we have to let our body and let ourselves know, really, without overthinking it, well, this is good and this is bad. So we also have stress chemicals that can be released. So when doing something that is not conducive to positive activity, there's a really strong mental element to that too, which is important to point out as well, especially considering how evolved our minds are now. Because if you think about it, a long time ago, it's like simple observation, before complex communication that we developed over thousands and thousands of years, dictionaries, ideas, context, things that we streamline through our written and spoken word now. In other words, we can find a million things to stress about in just our minds alone, and it can trigger the same process. So, and as far as the reward system as well, so it's the same thing that is like massively unleashed, I guess, if you do like hard narcotics or drugs. A lot of drugs, I don't think all of them, but many of them do release your endorphins or pleasure chemicals, dopamine, which also act as a natural painkiller, if I remember right, but in large quantities. And that's part of the problem with drug use, is that you deplete that, and then you're trying to seek the same high or feeling, and then it's just not there anymore. And then, plus all kinds of other problems too. But so Now, reason I mention that too is so we can, and because of the power of our minds, it's not as simple as um, there's a very real element of mental awareness when it comes to doing things that are good or stressful, or to stay away from things that are negative. Meaning, you can actually, like if you start to, some people, like coffee is a great example. Some people don't like coffee and develop an aversion to it. You may not even like the smell, or it just makes you cringe or stress at the smell or sight of it, let alone the taste of it. But if you come to enjoy it, you can start to attach the reactions of your built-in reward system to things you enjoy, like something, drinking coffee. So, and I've experienced this too before, where like you'll have a food you love, and after a while, for some reason or another, you don't like it anymore, and then you create an aversion for it. So these things can change too, depending on how you map your experience and your notion of what is good or not to something. So, and this is why. So, like I was saying, we get this experience when you eat. This can also create attachments to things, even possibly addictions, like with eating. And that's why, because if you start to associate, you know, your happiness with one thing in particular, you can become drawn to it or focused on it. And this is what creates that release. That's what activates your reward system, for example. And so, kind of like I was saying, there's a very basic structure, but it's not so easily experienced. It can be at the whims of these sorts of things can be affected by things around us, but also things that are within our direct control. That's kind of the whole point of this video is when you learn to have that awareness, you can start to harness your actions and streamline and align your thoughts and your movements with things that are positive in order to keep a healthy balance, in other words. And I think that's a great way to be able to bring some control over your life as well through awareness, because even the concept of like goals, for example. So without this sort of connection, it can cause anxiety. I was watching another video in psychology about this. So if we are like basically, because your body, like, think of it like a boat, right? You're always sailing no matter what. But without any goals or anywhere in mind to go, you're just kind of constantly at the whims of the ocean, in other words. So goals create a very powerful, when you set your mind to something, you complete it, you feel really good about it. That's your biological, reaction to your mental focus or conditioning, if you will, coming into play. So without something to attach your goals to, you don't experience those concepts like satisfaction or completion, and things that are on the positive side of the spectrum. And I think that's why when we just sit around, a lot of times, a lot of us have done this. I've done it too. Like with nothing to do, you start to get a little bit anxious, and you might even get like depressed a little bit because you're like, well, what do I do? Or because you have this energy and it's not, you're worried about what to do. One reality there is you can learn to be happy doing nothing in the moment. It's just another example of, focus on the fact that because you're trying to attach yourself to things that are not happening because you're not doing them, or not happening because you don't know what to do. But you can create the present moment as a desirable goal as well, and try to stay within that until it becomes your mode of operation at all time. I think that's a real powerful realization right there. So you can be self-rewarded, happy, content in the moment, even when doing nothing. And that way your mind is not creating these sorts of problems for you. So, and it's definitely easier said than done. By the way, I'm not saying I'm there, and it's easy and it's perfect. No, I think it's just part of the human condition and something we all struggle through to one degree or another our whole lives. So, but having an awareness of this sort of thing is great because it does two things. Number one, it gives you control. It makes you realize how these things work and how you can take control over your body's natural functioning and your mind as well. So another thing I realized is, we can be triggered or affected by things over time and not even realize it. Like, let's say, your commute causes you your stress. This starts to build up over time. And then your body's having a very real reaction to it, unless you do things like, say, deep breathing or meditation or exercise or anything that helps you feel good. And I think that's why a healthy balance of physical, even mental activity, if it's something like reading or clearing your mind and meditating, your body will very much react. One video I watched, another one was saying it takes just a few weeks, I think, like a month to a month and a half for your brain literally to start creating new patterns and habits within yourself after doing it for several weeks. Like with meditation, for example, if you meditate every day after about 6 weeks, I think, so about a month and a half, your body has, your mind and the chemicals it releases or doesn't release has started to relax and started to not create stress chemicals or reactions within yourself, and is kind of restructured, almost rebuilt itself into a new daily mode of operation. And that's why these things can be so, like breathing, focusing on your breath, or clearing your mind, or that sort of thing, can actually have a very real physical impact. And it's not, sometimes you can feel it immediately. But remember, what we are today as of this moment is a combination of everything we've been through recently and our whole lives, basically. So it's kind of like there can be a lot there to release or to restructure sometimes. And then, of course, I want to point out too, because I do believe in like healing and that sort of thing. But I'm very much a fan of like Western medicine as well, because it's more practical. It's more pragmatic and it's a lot more real and immediate. I think there is something to like quantum or like transformation or immediate healing. I believe in that sort of thing. I've even kind of seen and experienced it, which is amazing. So I don't want to write that off. But it's important, of course, to realize too that medical conditions, I'm not saying emotional awareness or anything like this is a cure-all, because sometimes people have very real physical medical conditions that they have to deal with, or even psychological that can create, physical barriers in your road to like emotional and physical and mental awareness and well-being. So I think this concept or these sorts of concepts can help, but I'm not saying it's a cure-all. So I just wanted to kind of point that out as well. But okay, so I think that was it. Hopefully I kind of structured that well enough. And just to kind of recap or summarize, so remember, we are, to split things into a very simple duality, we are physical and we are non-physical. Our minds, there's a very real-time connection clearly between our minds and our physical body. So we can clearly put ourselves into a happy state or a calm or an angry state just by thinking about something. We don't even have to experience it. We can just think it. And of course, we can also experience it. So that being said, there's a real physical reaction and effect on ourselves. Subtle. Sometimes we're aware of it. Sometimes we're not, just by little things or things that build up over time. But how we experience our day-to-day life and how we think about things and what we do and what we attach ourselves to kind of create our overall sense of well-being, I think. And then there are, of course, obvious ways to address this, like through diet and sleep and exercise, meditation, breathing, things like that. Goals, hobbies, fun, and also how to use your mind to focus on different things or calm down or bring your awareness Like focus on, you might not even be aware of like what certain issues are. Like, well, what is it like? Do you have, do you get headaches a lot, or do you like this and that, or do you stress a lot, or like if you kind of make a list of what these problems are, if you're experiencing any, then you've identified it, and then you're one step closer to addressing it. So use your mind, understand how powerful it is, and in relation to your body as well, and know that you have the power to own and control your level of positivity, negativity, calmness, what you think about, how you approach things. I think it's a very empowering thing to realize. And again, some things may be outside our control, but there's always ways to try to positively deal with things, so that any negative impact on you is minimized. So I challenge you and to maybe think about that and even realize that, do some research on it. I think it's fascinating stuff. Human psychology and just our biology is amazing. It's super complicated, and but we experience it at a very high level. But just what we're made of and how it all works together, it's insane. So anyways, I just wanted to share that thought, and emotional awareness, and be empowered. So be empowered to be you. And a great quote I read the other day, like, for example, the only thing holding you back is yourself. Might have been two quotes. Maybe I'm putting them together. But visualize what you want and begin to be it. Create the person that you admire, and then share that gift with the world. Be that person. So, and I wish you well, of course, and thank you for watching. And we'll see you in the next video.